Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you for having me. I am here representing the National Shooting Sports Foundation, which is the trade association of the firearms and ammunition manufacturing industry. Our industry has significant concerns about the banning of traditional lead-based ammunition. We're always uncomfortable when wildlife management decisions are made outside of fish and wildlife agencies. The North American Wildlife Model, which provides the funding and regulatory framework for wildlife management in America, falls apart if decisions are not made based on sound scientific data, and it's the state fish and wildlife commissions and agencies that are best suited to make these decisions. State wildlife agencies are actively engaged in this issue around the country, as highlighted by a resolution passed by the Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies in 2010, AFWA, the organization that represents all 50 state fish and wildlife agencies. In that resolution, they lay out well-reasoned principles for if, when, and how regulations regarding lead ammunition should be implemented. One of the key conclusions that AFWA made that we very strongly believe is that decisions should be based on the best available science related to wildlife population health. In fact, it's central to our position on the issue. I think it's imperative to emphasize the population component of wildlife population health. States manage wildlife populations, not individual animals. Regulations are generally intended to ensure sustainable populations, not prevent all mortality. Animals die from a whole host of causes, natural and man-made. Small mammals get run over by cars, raptors hit highlines, and birds fly into windows by the billions every year. Regulations are not made to prohibit cars, electricity, or buildings because this incidental mortality generally does not impact the population of any species. When we contend that the body of science does not support the case to ban lead ammunition, it's because there's no scientific research that indicates that wildlife populations are being affected. While there are literally hundreds of cases where researchers have documented lead toxicosis in various species of wildlife, we've yet to find one paper that can demonstrate a statistically significant reduction in wildlife populations as a result. Not for doves, not for eagles, and not for loons. It's important to note that my comments are not directed towards condors. As a species with so few individuals in the population impact of the loss of individual birds is significant. However, the state of California has already implemented a comprehensive ban of lead hunting ammunition in the condor zone. And the Department of Fish and Wildlife reports extremely high compliance with that law. Expanding a lead ammunition ban outside of the condor zone would have no effect on condors, positive or negative. It's also important to note, for the record, that condors became endangered primarily because of the effects of the pesticide DDT and not from ingestion of ammunition. You and I both know that the number one cause of declines in most wildlife species is loss of their habitat. Traditional ammunition has not contributed to that trend. In fact, an 11% federal excise tax paid by manufacturers, the Pittman-Robertson tax, has contributed billions of dollars every year to habitat protection, including millions of dollars every year to the state of California. Let me add one important side note about some of the evidence in the past that's been presented on lead. Much has been made about isotope ratios of lead, and that this analysis somehow is like a fingerprint or DNA that proves that lead found in some wildlife is from spent ammunition. Such claims are plain junk and poor science. Ammunition manufacturers use primarily recycled lead in bullets, so the lead they used was once lead car batteries, tire weights, and electrical components. Ammunition has a range of isotopic ratios that are identical to the isotopic ratios of batteries, tire weights, and electrical components. Ammunition is very homogeneous in this sense. When advocates cite isotopic ratios as conclusive evidence that only ammunition can be the source of lead in wildlife, they've not excluded all the other potential sources that are much more common within society. To put this in CSI forensic terms, while they would have you believe this evidence is tantamount to DNA, it's no more specific than, say, hair color. We're concerned that a ban on the most common and affordable ammunition types will have a negative impact on hunters. No doubt that's why some of the proponents of this legislation are pushing for it, to reduce the number of hunters. Further erosion of the hunting population means further erosion of wildlife management budgets, which means further erosion of habitats and the wild places that most Americans value and all people benefit from. Ammunition manufacturers produce a wide array of bullet types for many applications, and this is where I'll get into some of the technicalities of the bullets. Hunting bullets, by law, must be designed to expand on impact. This ensures that energy contained in the bullet is transferred efficiently to ensure the cleanest and most humane kill. Traditional ammunition utilizes lead cores because lead has a density and malleability that most efficiently performs the function it is intended to do. Lead hunting bullets mushroom because of the relative softness and malleability of the material. This mushrooming increases the frontal diameter of the projectile and disperses force in a radiating pattern, increasing shock and trauma to dispatch the animal quickly. We are limited by the periodic table. Current alternative ammunition types are almost exclusively copper alloys. From a performance standpoint, gold, silver, or platinum would make excellent bullets, as they all have densities and malleability more similar to lead. Economics clearly would not make that feasible. Copper alloys have been selected for a reason. Their densities are higher than other common metals available to us at a feasible price. While lead has a density of 11 grams per cubic centimeter, copper is only 8.9. This is important because to achieve the kinetic energy required of hunting bullets, sorry, Mr. Chairman, may I continue?
That is the time, unless you want to get one of the other members spread your time for you. Would you like to do that? Would you like to share time? Extend time? That was your full 6 minutes, so I'm just trying to be kind here. We'll add a couple minutes, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We'll allow 2 extra minutes.
Copper does not mushroom. It's 20% lighter, so it does not fly completely the same. It doesn't mushroom, so it uses hollow points and uses hydrostatic pressure to peel apart. Penetration from traditional copper bullets is much deeper than on other bullets, but that's not always what a hunter is looking for to achieve the role that he's trying to make his bullet do. In fact, sometimes they pass through an animal quickly, wasting much of the kinetic energy. Economically, copper is much more expensive than lead. It trades in the $3 to $4 range. Lead trades in the $50 to $1 range. But the cost of the metal is only part of the concern. Lead melts at 621 degrees. Copper melts at 1,984 degrees. Therefore, the carbon footprint of producing lead ammunition is much lower. There is information in the packet presented that talks about the price of ammunition. That analysis was done by a Canadian researcher, and in the research he admits that he intentionally cherry-picked which ammunition he compared. He excluded all of the lowest cost ammunition types from his analysis, which were lead cup and core bullets. So that would be the equivalent of comparing a Dodge Viper to a Mercedes 3 class and drawing the conclusion that Dodges and Mercedes are equivalently priced. But the biggest issue that we're facing, and I'll try to get into this quickly, is that the ATF is currently providing a regulatory framework that makes uncertainty about alternative bullets. The Gun Control Act has a provision that excludes, that defines armor-piercing ammunition as a projectile which may be used in a handgun and is constructed entirely from tungsten, steel, iron, brass, bronze, beryllium, copper, or depleted uranium. Brass is a copper alloy and is what most alternative bullets are built from. The Attorney General has the ability to rule that those bullets are intended for a sporting purpose and exempt them from the law, but over the last 2 years there has not been any petitions granted, and so we have a regulatory situation where we have the potential that all alternative bullets could potentially be banned. No new alternative bullets are being approved, and if traditional ammunition is banned, we would wind
up your testimony.
This is my final point. And if we were to
you had a 2-minute extension.
I understand,
and there are other folks here that did want to speak, and you've utilized all their time to speak.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
What I'll do is I'll open the floor for any others who would like to add on their position of opposition. Just give us your name, organization, and your position of opposition.